I never thought being honest with my friend would lead to her calling me an asshole. But here I am, replaying our conversation over and over, wondering if maybe I crossed a line I didn't realize was there. It started as one of those casual talks you have when you're close with someone, when you've spent years listening to them vent about relationships, loneliness, and all the little insecurities that come with being 19 and figuring yourself out. She's the kind of person who wears her heart on her sleeve. She always says she just wants to be loved, to have someone to do cute couple things with. Picnics, movie nights, little anniversary gifts. I've heard it so many times that it stopped surprising me. What did surprise me, though, was how fast everything got so intense the moment she tried to actually do something about it. A week ago, she decided she was finally going to get serious about dating. She downloaded Tinder and Hinge and spent the better part of a Saturday night setting up her profiles, choosing the right pictures, debating which prompts sounded cute without trying too hard. I remember her texting me about it nonstop, asking for my opinion on whether she should mention her love of rom-coms or if that made her sound basic. I thought it was kind of sweet. She seemed hopeful in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. And honestly, I was rooting for her. But the optimism didn't last more than a few days. Pretty soon, she was calling me late at night, sighing dramatically into the phone about how all the guys who liked her were so ugly, or so short, or just not it. She'd swipe through a dozen profiles in front of me on FaceTime, making a disgusted face at almost everyone. First, I thought it was just nerves. When you're new to dating apps, everything feels overwhelming. Everyone looks strange through a screen. I figured she'd warm up to it once she gave herself a little time. But by day 4, she was saying things like, "I don't get it. Why don't any of the hot guys match with me? I know I'm way above these guys." That's when I started feeling uneasy. Because the thing is, I've known her a long time. She's not ugly by any means, but she's also not the sort of person who turns heads in every room. She's, for lack of a better word, average. Normal. Pretty in a familiar way. I don't say that to be cruel. It's just the truth. And I genuinely don't think there's anything wrong with that. Most of us are average. Most of us end up with people who are average too. So when she asked me if she was out of these guys' league, I hesitated. I tried to be diplomatic. I told her I thought the guys she was matching with looked fine, normal guys in her general range of attractiveness. That she might be happier if she stopped expecting some model to appear out of nowhere and sweep her off her feet. I thought I was being helpful, supportive even. She didn't take it that way. Now, a week later, she still isn't speaking to me except to say I was rude and petty. And I'm sitting here, questioning whether my honesty makes me the asshole. I've known her since we were both around 15. Back then, we were just classmates who got paired together for a group project about some historical topic we both promptly forgot as soon as we handed in the presentation. What I did remember was that she was always preoccupied with what other people thought of her. Her looks, her clothes, how many people liked her posts. She was never exactly shy, but she did have this way of fishing for validation without seeming obvious about it. Like she'd complain about how frizzy her hair was just so someone would reassure her she was pretty. Or she'd sigh about how no one ever noticed her even though everyone did. Over the years, I'd grown used to it. She wasn't a bad person. She just needed more reassurance than most people. I think it came from her family, honestly. Her parents divorced when she was young, and she moved back and forth between two households that didn't seem to agree on anything except that she should always aim higher. Higher grades, higher goals, higher standards. Maybe that was why she always seemed to feel like she was falling short. When we graduated high school, she was determined that college would be her fresh start. She told me more than once that she was finally going to be that girl. The one with the perfect boyfriend, the Pinterest board aesthetic, the life everyone envied. But college turned out to be harder than she expected. She didn't instantly become the person she'd imagined. She still struggled with self-doubt, still compared herself to everyone around her. And, as she liked to remind me every few months, she still hadn't had a real relationship. It wasn't that she'd never dated. She'd been on a handful of first dates with guys she'd met through mutual friends or at parties, but none of them stuck. Usually, she'd lose interest after a week or two, or she'd complain that they weren't ambitious enough, weren't tall enough, weren't serious boyfriend material. Every time something fizzled out, She'd text me a stream of messages. Why does no one ever want to be with me? Or, is there something wrong with me? I always tried to be supportive. I'd reassure her that she wasn't doing anything wrong, that dating was hard for everyone, that it was normal to go through a few disappointments. But after a while, I started noticing a pattern. She was always convinced she deserved better. Better than the guys who liked her, better than the ones who tried to get to know her. And yet, she never seemed to have the confidence to actually put herself out there consistently. It was like she was stuck in this loop, wanting to be chosen by someone amazing, but dismissing every real person who showed any interest. So when she told me she'd finally downloaded dating apps, I thought maybe this was the breakthrough she needed. That first night, she called me sounding giddy. She was so excited to set up her profile, picking the best photos, writing a short bio, choosing prompts that made her seem interesting but not try hard. She sent me screenshots of every version she drafted. Does this make me sound desperate? Should I say I like dogs, or is that basic? Do I look cute in this one? I spent over an hour helping her tweak everything. Honestly, I was kind of rooting for her. She was finally taking action instead of just complaining about being single. But even that night, she dropped little hints about her expectations. I really hope I get some decent likes, like actual hot guys, not just, the bottom of the barrel. I remember feeling a flicker of unease. I'd never heard her say it so bluntly before. Still, I let it go. The next few days were a whirlwind of updates. Got 15 likes overnight. This guy is cute but too short. Ugh. Why are all the guys here so basic? I tried to remind her that it was just the first week, that she shouldn't expect fireworks right away. But she seemed convinced that if she didn't instantly match with the hottest guy on the app, something was wrong. By the fourth day, the excitement was gone. She was frustrated, annoyed, complaining constantly. I don't get it, she told me on FaceTime. Why are all these guys so unattractive? It's like, no offense, but I'm way out of their league. I watched her scroll through her likes, swiping left on almost everyone. These guys look normal, I said carefully. Like the kind of people you'd see on campus. She made a face. Exactly. They're just average. I deserve someone better. That was the moment I started to feel a little uncomfortable. Because no matter how much I care about her, no matter how many times I've been there to cheer her up, I couldn't help but notice that the people she was dismissing out of hand looked a lot like her in terms of attractiveness. It wasn't that she was wrong for having preferences. We all do. But I'd never heard her be so bluntly disdainful. And I knew, instinctively, that if I pointed that out, it wouldn't go well. That FaceTime call was the start of everything unraveling. She had her phone propped up on her desk, the screen angled so I could see the endless carousel of profiles she was scrolling through. Every few seconds, she'd sigh or mutter something dismissive. No. Why do they all look like this? Does no one take care of themselves? At first, I tried to keep my voice neutral. I told her dating apps were like this for everyone, that you had to be patient, that most people looked better in person. But she wasn't interested in hearing it. I just don't get it, she said, her voice rising. I thought if I put some effort into my profile, I'd get better matches. I'm not trying to be mean, but these guys are just below me. I hesitated. I could feel something tightening in my chest. Below you how? I asked. She frowned at me like I'd asked the dumbest question in the world. Like, in looks, in vibe, just everything. I didn't respond right away. I was trying to choose my words carefully, but the longer I watched her dismiss one normal-looking guy after another, the harder it was to keep my thoughts to myself. Finally, she turned the phone so I could see her likes tab. Tell me I'm wrong, she said. Tell me these aren't just sad options. I studied the screen for a moment. There were maybe a dozen profiles visible, some guys in hoodies, a couple in suits, one guy holding a dog. None of them were stunning, sure, but none of them were hideous either. They looked like average guys in their late teens or early 20s. Normal, approachable, the kind of people you might have a perfectly fine coffee date with. They look fine, I said honestly. I mean, they look like regular people. She scoffed. Exactly. Regular. I'm not regular. I swallowed. I think you're being a little harsh. Her eyebrows shot up. Excuse me? I just mean, you keep saying you want a relationship, but you're not even giving anyone a chance. You're dismissing everyone before you even talk to them. Because I don't want to settle, she snapped. I know my worth. Something in me finally snapped, too, not in a cruel way, but in the tired way that happens when you've been holding back too long. Your worth isn't only about looks, I said carefully. And honestly, these guys are in your league. You're acting like you're way above them, but you're not matching with the ones you call hot. Right? Her mouth fell open. I could feel my pulse hammering in my throat. Part of me wanted to backpedal, to soften it. But another part of me knew that if I didn't say it now, I'd always regret not being honest. If you were really in their league, I went on quieter, you'd be matching with them. But you're not. So maybe, just maybe, you're being unrealistic. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. You think I'm average, she said flatly. I didn't say that. You basically did. I ran a hand over my face. I'm saying that you might have better luck and feel less miserable if you gave normal guys a chance. You always talk about wanting love, but you act like you're shopping for a trophy. Real relationships aren't like that. There was a long silence. I could see her jaw working like she was trying to keep from crying or screaming. I couldn't tell which. Finally, she said very quietly, "Wow, I thought you were my friend." "I am your friend," I said. "That's why I'm telling you the truth. I'm not going to lie to you just to make you feel better in the moment if it's going to make you unhappier in the long run." She didn't reply. She just ended the call without another word. I sat there staring at my blank phone screen, my heart thudding. For a while, I hoped she'd cool off and we could talk about it like adults. But when I tried to text her later, "Hey, can we talk?" she left me on read. The next day, she posted a cryptic Instagram story. "Some people love to tear you down so you'll feel small like them." I knew it was about me. I didn't respond. Part of me wanted to explain again that I wasn't trying to tear her down. I was trying to help her see reality so she could actually get what she said she wanted: connection, companionship, love. But another part of me wondered if it was even worth trying. Because in that moment, it was clear she didn't want honesty. She wanted validation, and I couldn't give her that if it meant lying. After she ended the call that night, I sat there for a long time, staring at the last frame of her face frozen on my screen, her eyes wide with something between hurt and rage. I kept replaying our conversation in my head, picking apart every word I'd said. Was I too blunt? Could I have phrased it differently? Maybe I should have just nodded along and let her vent, even if I didn't agree. Maybe that would have been kinder. But the more I thought about it, the more I felt conflicted. Because yes, I care about her. She's been my friend since we were teenagers. I've seen her through breakups, family drama, nights when she called me crying because she felt so unlovable. Part of me always wanted to protect her from pain, even if it was self-inflicted. But another part of me knew that this wasn't just about one conversation. It was about a pattern I'd watched for years, her need to compare, to judge, to reassure herself that she was somehow better. And every time something didn't go her way, she'd blame everyone else before she'd ever look inward. I tried to remember if there was a time when she'd shown real curiosity about the people she dismissed. If she'd ever asked herself why she was drawn to the idea of a relationship but repelled by the reality of the kinds of people she could actually connect with. I couldn't think of many examples. I knew she was hurt by what I said. I'm not naive. But I also knew that if I'd said, "You're right, you're way out of their league," she would have felt validated for an hour, maybe a day. And then, when she still didn't match with the so-called hot guys, she'd be right back where she started, frustrated, lonely, convinced that something was wrong with everyone but her. So I decided to give her space. I didn't bombard her with texts or apologies. I didn't try to soften the truth I'd already spoken. Instead, I sent one final message a couple days later. "I'm sorry this hurt you. That wasn't my intention. I care about you and I want you to be happy. But I can't lie to you about this. If you want to talk, I'm here." She never replied. A week passed. Then another. We didn't speak. She stopped tagging me in memes or sending me TikToks at 2 a.m. I'd be lying if I said it didn't bother me. It did. I missed her. I missed our easy banter and the way she always made even the most boring stories sound entertaining. But at the same time, I felt a weird kind of relief. Because for once, I hadn't swallowed my discomfort to keep the peace. For once, I hadn't caved to the pressure to just tell her what she wanted to hear. Felt honest. Maybe too honest. But real. I tried to remind myself that if our friendship couldn't survive me gently pointing out that her expectations were unrealistic, maybe it wasn't as solid as I'd thought. And yet, part of me still wondered if I could have handled it better. Maybe I could have softened my words or found a gentler way to suggest that she reconsider her standards. But the truth is, I don't think there is a gentle way to tell someone, you're not as exceptional as you believe you are. So I made my choice, to stand by what I said, to respect her need for space, and to respect my own boundaries too, because I'm tired of being the friend who always tiptoes around her ego just to avoid conflict. It's not that I think I'm better than her. I don't. We're all flawed. We all have insecurities. But I also think friendship means sometimes telling each other the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it costs you something. After that last message I sent her, things felt strangely quiet. Our mutual friends started to notice almost immediately. It's hard not to when two people who used to talk every day suddenly stop interacting altogether. At first, I think everyone assumed it was just a temporary spat. We'd had disagreements before, about petty things like whether someone we knew was being dramatic or which restaurant to pick for a group dinner. But this time was different. It didn't blow over in a few days. A week after the argument, one of our close friends texted me, "Hey, is everything okay between you two? She seems really upset." I considered how to reply. I didn't want to air our private conversation to everyone else, but I also didn't want to pretend nothing had happened. "We had a disagreement," I wrote back. "I think she just needs space." That seemed to satisfy them, at least on the surface. But I could sense curiosity brewing. People started tiptoeing around it. If we were in a group chat, she wouldn't reply to my comments. If I sent a funny video, she'd ignore it, or worse, she'd react with the little thumbs down. Sometimes she'd post vague, pointed things on her Instagram story. Some people pretend to care about you just to feel superior. Funny how jealousy looks a lot like honesty. I tried not to let it get to me. I told myself she was venting, that she needed to feel validated by someone. But the truth was, it hurt. They changed the subject if I mentioned dating or relationships. One friend pulled me aside during a study session. "Look, I'm not trying to take sides," she began, clearly uncomfortable. I braced myself. "But she's really upset. She feels like you think she's delusional." I sighed. "I don't think she's delusional. I think she has unrealistic expectations about dating apps. That's all." "She said you basically told her she's average," she went on. "That you implied she should settle." "I didn't say she should settle," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I said she should consider that the people liking her are probably the ones she's most likely to connect with. That expecting to match with the hottest people on the app isn't realistic if she's not getting any of those matches." My friend looked at me with this pained expression, like she was caught in the middle, and I suppose she was. "I get it," she said finally. "But maybe you could have said it softer." I didn't argue, because she was probably right. But no matter how gently I could have phrased it, the message would have been the same, that she isn't owed attention from people she considers out of her league. A few people in our circle were more understanding. One of them, a guy we'd both known since high school, texted me privately, "Dude, you were just being honest. She asked for your opinion." Asterisk, yeah. I wrote back. And apparently that was the wrong move. "Better than lying to her," he replied. "She needs to hear it sometime." That message made me feel a little less alone. But still, there was this uncomfortable sense that the group dynamic had shifted. When we all hung out together, virtually or in person, there was a tension I couldn't shake. Sometimes she'd laugh at everyone's jokes except mine. Sometimes she'd look down at her phone while I was talking. It wasn't outright hostility, but it was a coldness that hadn't been there before. Part of me wanted to break the silence. send her another message, try again to explain that I wasn't trying to hurt her, that I was only trying to help her see that maybe her approach was making her unhappy. But another part of me felt stubborn. Why was it my job to coddle her ego when she'd asked for my honest opinion? Why was everyone acting like I'd committed some betrayal just because I didn't sugarcoat the truth? It felt like no matter what I did, someone would think I was in the wrong. In the weeks that followed, she seemed to recruit a small chorus of people who agreed with her. They'd post supportive comments on her stories, little affirmations about knowing your worth and not letting negative people drag you down. I tried to ignore it. I tried to remind myself that I hadn't done anything malicious. But it was hard not to feel like I'd been quietly exiled from a friendship I'd invested years into. And even though part of me knew I'd done the right thing, telling the truth instead of feeding a fantasy, I couldn't help but wonder if I'd been too rigid, too blunt, too unwilling to see how my words might land on someone who already felt insecure. Because the thing is, it's easy to say you believe in honesty. It's a lot harder when honesty costs you relationships. So this is where things stand now. We haven't spoken directly in over a month. She still doesn't reply to my messages, still posts the occasional vague story about fake friends, or people who think they're better than you. Most of the time, I try to shrug it off. But late at night, I still replay everything in my head, wondering if I could have handled it differently. I keep thinking about how the conversation even started. Her swiping through dozens of profiles, rolling her eyes, saying over and over again that every guy was gross or pathetic. Part of me can't help but feel that someone had to tell her that her expectations might be part of the problem. That maybe it wasn't everyone else who was falling short. Maybe it was the gap between her idea of herself and how the world sees her. But another part of me knows that hearing something like that is painful. I know it probably felt like a betrayal coming from me, the person she vented to most. I keep asking myself, if the roles were reversed, if I was the one complaining that no gorgeous Instagram models would swipe right on me, would she have told me the truth? Or would she have lied to spare my feelings? And if she would have lied, does that mean I should have done the same? It's not like I told her she was ugly. I didn't. I never would. I just said that the guys she was dismissing were, in my opinion, in her same general range of attractiveness. That maybe it would make her happier to be open to them instead of chasing people who never showed any interest. I didn't think that was cruel. I thought it was realistic. But she clearly didn't see it that way. Since then, a couple of our mutual friends have gently suggested I apologize, just to smooth things over. One even said, "Sometimes it doesn't matter if you're right. People remember how you made them feel." And I get that. I really do. But I also think there's something to be said for telling the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's someone you care about. I didn't say what I said to hurt her. I said it because I was tired of watching her go in circles, complaining she was lonely, then rejecting every real chance at connection because the guy didn't look like some fantasy. I also keep thinking about what she said when she ended the call. "I thought you were my friend." I guess that's the part that stings the most. Because to me, being her friend was why I was honest. It would have been so easy to nod along, to tell her she was too good for everyone, that the apps were just full of losers. But if I'd done that, I would have felt like I was lying. And if she eventually matched with someone she thought was perfect, and still ended up disappointed, she'd be right back in the same place. Confused and hurt, with no one willing to tell her the truth. So I'm stuck here, caught between two instincts. One that says I did the right thing by being honest, and another that wonders if kindness sometimes matters more than accuracy. I don't want to lose this friendship over something that, in the grand scheme of things, might not matter. But I also don't want to be the kind of person who can't speak the truth to the people I care about. So, Reddit, I need an outside perspective. Am I the asshole for telling my friend that she's in the same league as the guys she's rejecting, and that her standards might be unrealistic?